Not a reporter and not trying to be one, but had to pass this along. Could mean something or could mean nothing. But I'm told by a source Pete Carroll was spotted today in SoCal with Chip Kelly. Chip most likely still has a house in the area from his time at UCLA Raider Nation.
Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, and Ryan's is RHOLM22. Also check us out on Blue Sky, Instagram, all those things like that. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We know we know who you guys are who are just watching and not subscribing. Just subscribe. It makes more sense. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the show, watching the show in Oakland, California, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and then Hartford, Connecticut as well. And then and also in the Bahamas as well. So you're watching the show out there and listening to the show. Raider fans everywhere across the world. So interesting weekend to say the least. But I let Ryan go with it because Ryan had a little text, phone call, whatever, and then it kind of set right after that, kind of like the perfect way to like get information and distribute it to Raider Nation.
Yeah, I had someone reach out to me today. I was working all weekend, so I was away from my phone, and I got a text about a secret meeting between Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, now the Raiders offense coordinator, that took place this morning down in Southern California. And just so happened, the person that reached out to me is a big Raiders fan, and he wanted me to have the information. And I double and triple checked with him. I said, "Are you sure about this?" And he said, "Yeah, run with it." But I wanted to word it carefully in case it didn't happen, because these kind of things happen behind the scenes. They were never going to announce a Chip Kelly interview, because if he's coaching at Ohio State, if he doesn't get the job, he has to go back and coach in college. So when you're taking a guy away from a program like that, when a college coach is going to the NFL, you don't really hear about it. So I kind of worded it. I'll read the tweet here. I said, "Not a reporter, not trying to be one, but wanted to pass this along. Could mean something or it could mean nothing, because if they didn't offer him, if they didn't come to terms, then we never would have heard about this. But I'm told by a source Pete Carroll was spotted today in Southern California with Chip Kelly." And then I mentioned that Chip Kelly still has a house in the area from his time at UCLA. That was about an hour before the news broke nationally. So the Raiders land their offensive coordinator. Pretty excited about the hire. Now, when you step back and look at the totality of everything,
Yep.
John Spytek's in place as the GM. Pete Carroll's the head coach in the CEO fashion. But now when you look at Pete Carroll's staff, it starts to make a little bit more sense. I'm on board more with the Pete Carroll hire. Even if this is a 3 or 4 year go at it,
Yep.
you have Chip Kelly coming in, who runs an innovative offensive scheme. Now, a lot of people are going to go back to his Oregon days and think he's up tempo. He's not going to give the defense a chance. They're not going to control time of possession. That was in the past. I mean, that was his offense in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, whenever he was there. And then he went to the NFL. And people say it didn't work in the NFL. If you go look at his time in Philadelphia, he had 2 top 5 offenses in like a 3 or 4 year period. It didn't work in San Francisco, but go look at that San Francisco roster that he had with Colin Kaepernick and who the weapons were in that offense. But people evolve. If you look at what he did at Ohio State, now people say he wasn't good at UCLA. UCLA is not a good football program. Let's tell it like it is. Like they were competitive under Chip Kelly, but he didn't take them into the national spotlight. But UCLA is not a national spotlight program. They're not a blue blood program. And then he goes to Ohio State, and you know what Ohio State, very good offense. They just won the national championship. They have a diverse run scheme. They have inside zone. They have outside zone. They have power. They have gap. They do all kinds of things. They move people in the line of scrimmage. Chip Kelly teams has always been able to run the football.
Yep.
And Pete Carroll talks about playing defense, running the football. Well, now he has an offensive coordinator in place that can run the football. So I expect the Raiders to be very good on the ground and have very good designs for offense on how to move the ball on the ground. Now, what are they going to do in the passing game? Who's going to be the quarterback? We don't know that. And then you look at the defensive side, you bring back Patrick Graham, who's good enough. If you bring everything together, the defense is going to have to carry this team. And then you have Rob Leonard. Now, is Patrick Graham going to make them a top 5 defense? Probably not. But can they be a 10th, 12th, above average defense? Yeah, if they stay healthy, they have the pieces to do that, and they're going to add to the roster through the draft and free agency. But um, I, back to the original point, I don't really break news. That's not my job. I'm not a reporter. But like when I got that information today, I wanted to put it out there, but then be careful about how I worded it. And then, like you said, it broke probably an hour and a half after that. And I was getting messages. My phone was blowing up from all kinds of people reaching out to me. I had people like, oh, now you got eyes on Pete, like friends of mine. Like, I'm like, yeah, I do actually. Like, I have people reach out to me. So the person that gave me the information, I trusted them. They've given me information in the past that turned out to be pretty good and all avenues of life, not just football. So thankful for that source. I'm not going to reveal who it was, but thankful for reaching out to me.
Yep.
And he wanted me to be the first one with it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then like I said, like I always tell kids, relationships are the biggest thing in life. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, especially in work relationships as well too. So you never know. And we definitely thank you for dropping that information in Ryan's lap there. I mean, Chip Kelly's worst offense in his tenure with the Eagles was 16th in the NFL. The Raiders would take that. The Raiders would take 16th for what we've seen before. And I've seen a bunch of Raider fans who are some people are really happy about it, some people are really sad about it. But the one thing that they're happy about, ones that were happy about this move was that they keep tweeting Jenkins and Henderson. They say like we want one or both of those running backs from Ohio State. We'll put those guys in play because this is the with Chip Kelly there. We already know that this is going to change the running back room, which was probably the worst in Raider history, dramatically going forward.
I think the big takeaway, don't forget the big uglies up front. Like they have some offensive linemen on that team at Ohio State that are prospects that Chip Kelly's worked with. He knows the ins and outs of every player in that program. Chip Kelly didn't take any time off. He coached at UCLA prior to leaving. So the guys in this draft, Chip Kelly has a lot of intel on them that he could bring to the Raiders and help them as they move forward. And hats off to Pete Carroll here because Pete Carroll could have taken out the driver, hit it down the fairway, and just played this safe and gone with Darrell Bevell, who probably wouldn't have been liked by a ton of Raider fans. I wasn't really on board with bringing Darrell Bevell back and just getting the band together. Thankfully, Pete Carroll thought outside the box here and decided to go get the best candidate he could to do what he wants to do, which is run the football. Mm-hmm. He brought back Patrick Graham when he didn't have to do that. He went and got Chip Kelly at an exorbitant price. Let's tell the truth here. He spent $6 million to get him, but he got him. Yeah. So it's starting to look like Pete Carroll's putting together a really good staff here. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, I don't want him to be the successor. He was a train wreck as a head coach. I do not want to talk about succession plans. I don't want to talk about coach in waiting. Let's see what this team does. They have to prove it on the field. They have to go out and win games for 2 or 3 years. On the flip side of it, if this thing takes off on offense, another team can come try to get him to be their head coach. So there's no guarantee that 3 or 4 years from now, Chip Kelly's even going to be around.
Yep.
So let's not look. I saw something. I can't confirm if it's true or not, but I'll just throw it out there. The Raiders have never, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I saw this stat, have never had a coordinator leave to be a head coach of another team. They're one of or two. It's a small number of NFL teams. So I know Raider fans get scared to death that if the coordinator comes in and they're good, they're going to leave them. It's never happened in the history of the Oakland, LA Raiders. Never happened. Las Vegas Raiders. So it would be great if it did because that means this team's winning football games and it's going in the right direction. Let's see what this product looks like on the field for a couple of years before we start talking about succession plans and losing guys to other teams.
And let's be honest, if that happens, that would actually be. I mean, you wouldn't want to see him go, but that would be a good thing because that means the offense is really moving the football, and really scoring points. Chip Kelly is also a guy who he could have stayed at UCLA. He was able to. He said, I just want to go back and call plays. It worked out for him. He went to. I mean, it was almost an afterthought on college football that Chip Kelly went to Ohio State, and then when they went to Ohio State, they just they didn't beat Michigan, but I think they will take the Natty over beating Michigan. Even I know they hate Michigan, but I think the Buckeyes will take beat winning a national championship. And the way that offense looked, I love the way I went back and watched that game that game a couple weeks ago. Just watching the way Ohio State just attacked Oregon, and like that was just I mean that was really what you want. You want like
Surgical.
it was absolutely surgical. They just destroyed him. They didn't get a chance to get off the mat. It was like Tyson back in the day. So I want to give Chip Kelly a whole bunch of credit for that. The Raiders new brass has really ponied up. I mean, I think D'Amico Ryans is making $4.6 million a year. He's making $6. I mean, Chip Kelly's making $6. So they're not sparing any expense. So nobody is the whole like little poverty stuff, whatever that we used to have back in Oakland is showing up here, and they're not playing around. So like that makes it like when you look at it from the Raider perspective, it's like as a fan, you're like, okay, we need something. Okay, the fans know we need it. We know we need it, so we're gonna just go fucking go get it. Like and we have the means to go get it. So I wonder what that means for free agency, what that means for the draft, and probably trying to move up, whatever. Who knows? But yeah, Chip Kelly. I mean, and then you have a guy who also, young quarterback. Like if they go to young quarterback, he can build an offense that will help that quarterback, help hopefully succeed and be able to move the football at the same time. Like you don't have to have like huge struggles when you have a young quarterback. Hopefully, that running game, and then with dude with Patrick Graham's defense, if they can get some big uglies up there and stop the run, then hey, I mean the Raiders could be on their way. A lot of stuff has to happen first before that takes place, but the offseason has definitely got off to a solid start, I would say.
Yeah, I think Pete. I think what we learned from Chip Kelly when he left UCLA was it wasn't about being the head coach. I think what it told you was the landscape of college football with NIL and being in a program where he couldn't compete
Yeah.
nationally like he wanted to. He
Yes.
wanted to go win. And to him, the best chance for him to do that was to go to Ohio State and be the offensive coordinator. So it doesn't surprise me that now he's leaped back into the NFL. He would have gone to the NFL last year if a team offered him an offensive coordinator job. They didn't, and that's how he ended up at Ohio State. And when you start talking about the Raiders' pocketbooks, and a lot of people want to immediately throw out, well, I don't want to hear about Mark Davis being poor anymore. Like, I think this says more to the new ownership group, the new people that just come on, not Tom Brady and Richard Seymour group, the other couple groups that bought in for 7.5 to 15%. They're throwing money around. And $6 million is the highest paid coordinator in football. That's probably more than Antonio Pierce made last year as the head coach of the Raiders. So they
Yeah.
mean business. Um, let's remember the Raiders were dead last in the NFL in cash spending last year on the roster. That'll change, which is good. If you're looking at how much cap space the Raiders have, and now they're willing to throw around $6 million for a coordinator. Patrick Graham was at $3 million last year. I saw a tweet that he got a raise, so he's probably in the 4.5 range. Pete Carroll's probably at least at 10 million if they're paying Chip Kelly at 6. So you're talking $20 million or more on the head coach and the two coordinators. So they're spending money in Vegas. The house always wins. So it's hopefully it's
Yes.
in Allegiant, the house starts winning and the Raiders start putting a better product on the field and then the fans will return. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. Who's the quarterback? That's going to be the question for me. I think, I didn't want Darrell Bevel, so I'm kind of glad that he didn't come because I didn't want Russell Wilson either. And that seemed like that was going to be a package deal if they came.
Yeah.
Who are the quarterbacks that could fit this scheme? I still think Geno Smith is probably the odds-on favorite. If they go the veteran route, they'll find a way to possibly get Geno. I know he's older, and then draft a guy behind him. Is Quinn Ewers in play now? Can he run that system? Is it Jackson Dart? Like, who's the quarterback if it's not
Yeah.
one of the top two?
Yeah.
Justin Fields is back in play. If they want a really mobile quarterback and move it around, I don't know if Chip's really going to like his accuracy and getting the ball out quickly on some short to intermediate passes because
Yeah. Yep.
this offense is diverse on the ground. They run a lot of screens. It's a lot of short stuff with some deep shots down the field. I don't know. And I know everyone wants to point to Marcus Mariota. I mean, Marcus Mariota in Oregon in that up-tempo offense was years ago. So it's
Yeah.
decades ago at this point. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be that route. I could see the quarterback room being like Geno Smith and then either a Jackson Dart or Quinn Ewers. Where does that leave Aiden O'Connell? Like, can he run that type of offense? I'm not sure. I don't know if he's mobile enough. Um, there's going to be some RPO stuff in the passing game. That's what Chip Kelly does. So the guy's got to be move a little bit. Aiden O'Connell can't really do that.
Yeah.
So do they bring in two quarterbacks and then have O'Connell kind of be that third guy? The just in case. Can they move him for a draft pick at this point if he doesn't fit this offense? Can they get a fifth or sixth round pick for him? Where do they go? So, this opens up a whole bunch of avenues of what they can do at quarterback. Whereas if it was Darrell Bevel, we were probably staring down the gun barrel at Russell Wilson coming in. So I'm excited to see where this offense is going to go. How are they going to feature Brock Bowers? Does that mean, Abuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State, could he be in that conversation if he gets to the early second round? Is it one of the two running backs? Does he like Judkins? Does he like Henderson? Is Donovan Jackson in play now? So
Yeah.
is Will Howard in play? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see there. I mean, I do gotta. It's funny because I was listening to Pat Kerwin, and Pat Kerwin was talking about how he said if he gets one coordinator, he'll go by. And Pat Kerwin, if you don't know, is one of Pete's friends from back in the day with the Jets. And he was like, if he goes one way, it's like one coordinator with this quarterback, and then another way with another. So he kind of had that pairing. So I do think it might mean Russell might not be coming if that's the case. But you never know. You never know as far as that goes. As soon as this happened, I had a whole bunch of stuff come up with Justin Fields in my phone, like Justin Fields, just Justin Fields, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe Justin Fields is a viable a viable thing here. His running ability, yes, but I would not say Justin Fields is a good pick up here as far as, like you said, with the accuracy. You remember, when he did have Nick Foles, I mean, he was deadly accurate in that offense. So and I don't see a situation where he's going to be an accurate passer in this offense. But for the Raiders, I think this is obviously it's a big boy move. Like, what I mean? Like, this is like moves like this are like big teams make these moves. So I think that's probably one of the big things you like about it. It's been a long time since the Raiders have been a big team, and it's good to see that they're actually kind of stepping to the forefront here.
No, it's good they're relevant. At least now. I know it's February 2nd. But the Raiders are relevant. They have a real coaching staff, coaching staff that they have a chance to be creative. They have a chance to have consistency on the defensive side of the ball. They have a chance to play complementary football. They have a head coach that should be able to motivate these guys. Now, again, I still think it's a 3, 4, maybe 5-year window, but like if they can get the quarterback right, either this season or next offseason, they have a chance to make some big strides. And we'll see ultimately where that takes them. And at this point, I know we want to raise Lombardies. Do I think they can get there in the next 2 or 3 years? Probably not, barring, the odds say no. We'll see what happens, but can they get to the playoffs back-to-back years in 2 of the next 3 years? What can they do this year when they lay the foundation, and where is this going to go? We'll see. I'm a lot more excited about it today than I was when they announced the Pete Carroll hire. Now the next domino is the quarterback, but they've seemed to knock it out with the GM, the head coach, the offense coordinator, and the defense coordinator. So I would think there is a plan to get some sort of quarterback here versus throwing money at Gardner Minshew on day one and crossing your fingers, which kind of seems like that was the plan last year, and that blew up in their face.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, they are. Like I said that. So the Raiders get Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator. Just the talented offensive mind who can move the football in various ways, and I think that's what you want from week to week. He's going to give you something really. He's going to give you something really cool to watch on all 22. Thank you, Jesus. And instead of watching,
you didn't want to break down Darrell Bevel.
I mean, listen, I was okay with it. I wasn't like screaming from the rafters not to get Darrell Bevel, but this is definitely a better move. And it's a move that listen, like we all motivated by money. We can love our jobs. Our jobs feel a little bit better when we get a little bit more compensation for it. And he definitely got compensated for it. So good for Chip Kelly and good for the Raiders.
I do think that Darrell Bevel still has a chance to come to the staff as the quarterback coach. And, I think with the relationships he has with Pete, I wouldn't say that that's dead at this point. He may ask Miami. to
Oh,
let him out
yeah,
of his
I was gonna say,
contract and
I was
come
gonna
over.
say,
So
yeah.
um, he can't leave for a lateral move unless Miami grants him permission to do that, which teams
Yeah.
have done in the past. So like, is Mike McDaniel going to hold his quarterback coach's feet to the fire, or is he going to allow him to go reunite? So we'll see. I still think there is a chance for him to get onto the Raiders staff as the quarterback coach.
Yeah, which to me is like it's not like as like dire as everybody said. I mean, like if he gets there, he gets there. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm sure. I'm sure Chip Kelly has some people in mind who he wants to add as far as quarterback coach goes. As far as that goes. Anything else on Chip and Chip joining the Raiders? Wasn't there a rumor last year that he might? Wasn't there a rumor like last year?
He actually interviewed with the Raiders last year,
Yeah.
but the reason being that he didn't get the job was the reports are that he wanted to bring a lot of staff with him from UCLA, and Antonio Pierce didn't want him to do that, and they kind of couldn't come to terms at that point. So he
Yeah.
was in the running to become the offense coordinator to the point where they talked about staff who was he going to bring with them, and didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, hey, who knows? Who knows what would happen if that took place? You know. Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl wrapped up this weekend. Some takeaways from that, and some of the guys who you feel like did good. I guess the wide receiver Jack Beck made some really good plays in the game. One of our favorites is the offensive lineman from North Dakota State. He played. He was able during the week to play. You know, to go from tackle to guard and play well. What were your thoughts about on the Senior Bowl this weekend?
I saw all the practices, so I saw the six practices. I didn't
Mm.
haven't been able to watch the game yet because I was working this weekend, but I saw kind of the highlights online real quick. I think the biggest takeaway is, people want to rush to judgment on 1 week's worth of practice and one game, and you're seeing all of this information about Jackson Dart's going from like third to fourth round to top 10 in the first round. I kind of tweeted about this the other day. I would slow the roll on that a little bit. And I brought up Spencer Rattler specifically because we heard the same thing last year. Spencer Rattler outperformed Bo Nix. He outperformed Michael Penix. He was the MVP of the game. He's going in the first round. He's QB 5 or 6 in this draft, and he went in the fifth round. So fans get excited because they see a couple of highlights of practice, and he's the MVP of the game, or he performs well for a couple series. But scouts have been following these guys for years. They've seen 20, 30, 40, 50 games on some of these guys. They do a ton of information on the makeup and the practice habits and everything these guys do on and off the field that has a lot of weight. So these guys' draft spots within clubs is not moving like Twitter's telling you it's moving. So I think Jackson Dart clearly goes before the fifth round. I don't think he's a first rounder at this point. I think he's still clearly in that late second, early to mid third round range.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see where he goes on draft day, but like guys aren't jump. We heard the same thing about Malik Willis. Some guys pointed it out to me as well. We heard all of that hype about Malik Willis coming out of there, and then he ended up in the third round. So just because a guy has a strong week there doesn't automatically mean he's a first rounder or let alone a top 10 guy. As far as the game, I think you saw a lot of the offensive and defensive linemen. The defensive linemen stood out in the game. There was a ton of sacks. You saw some offensive linemen have really good weeks. I think kind of my sleeper coming out of it, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, the safety out of Illinois State, Keandre, is it Jackson? Let me get it here before I misspell it and people start blowing me up.
What school
I'm
was it
gonna say
again?
it. From Illinois State. I kind of liked him. I got it right here on my phone. I'm trying to find it. He was voted the top defensive back for, I think, whichever squad he was on. I know you guys can look it up. I can't find it on my phone real quick, but he went to Illinois State. It seems like an option at safety if the Raiders are looking for a versatile safety that has some cover skills. He was wearing number 13. I can't remember his last name right now, but I thought overall it was good. Riley Leonard could be a guy that can make some plays later on down the line. But as far as guys falling in love with some of these later round quarterbacks, again, and you reposted it today, like the history of the second round quarterback is not good. I know we like to think that we can get a guy and groom him and developmental this and developmental that. That doesn't work in the National Football League for the most part. So If the Raiders go out and get a veteran quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold or Geno Smith or Marcus Mariota or whoever it is, and they take a guy in the third or fourth round, chances are that guy in the third or fourth round is not going to be the guy that's going to lead your franchise for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You're still going to have to take more swings the following year. So um, I'm excited to see it. If the Raiders are going to go all in, like they have on the coaching staff, are they willing to be aggressive in the draft and find a way to get up into the top 2 or 3 to try to get Ward or Sanders?
Yeah.
That's going to be the question. That's going to be what we're looking for. And we'll know if they go out in free agency and they make a trade for Geno Smith, or they go sign a Sam Darnold, or they go get a veteran, probably means they're not going to be aggressive to go up into the top 2. And they're probably going to try to take a guy later on. So if you're Pete Carroll, the question is, like, if you have a 4-year window with Pete Carroll, do you want to go get a rookie and try to develop him for 2 years and see where this thing is in 3 years? Or do you want to go get Geno Smith, give him a new contract because he needs one in Seattle? Doesn't seem like Seattle really wants to pony up the money to get him and try to run it. With a veteran, you can hit the ground running with on day one. So we'll see what the Raiders decide to do there.
Keandre Jackson is the guy you're talking about?
That's Jackson. I don't know why I was saying Johnson. Yeah, Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. Yeah, 6'2", 211 pounds, senior, out of Illinois State. So that's a guy who got the standouts as far as that goes. So definitely check him out. I actually have Illinois State tape, so I might look at it later on. I just noticed that I have that ability to look at that. So we'll see. We'll see about that. I mean, obviously the trenches. Because they need. I mentioned defensive tackle, and then somebody in a space, and somebody attacked me and said, "Oh, they got Christian Wilkins." I'm like, well, they kind of need a little bit more than Christian Wilkins to stop the run. So let's relax on that one. But yeah, so. And they are. I think this draft does align with. It does align with a lot of the things the Raiders need. You know what I mean? They need a running back. They need defensive tackle. They need some of these positions. So things kind of line up as well. As far as the Jackson Dart conversation, I will say this. I think he is probably. I agree with you. Probably a second or a third round talent. For some reason, I just feel like one team later in the first round is gonna just panic and just grab him. I mean, because it doesn't mean that he belongs in that class. I just feel like a team is gonna do it. If he kills his pro day, then that will kind of solidify it for him, I guess. But we'll see as far as that goes. And I think the biggest question for me with Jackson Dart is like, when you look at the guys that you look at Cam Ward in Miami, look at Shador in Colorado, like Jackson Dart clearly played on the best team. Like, you know what I mean? So like, it's not even, it really isn't close. I mean, I'm still sore that I picked him to win the SEC because I thought he had the best team. I thought Kiffin had it with this squad, especially with that front four who led the nation in sacks. So I think that would be the question I would have is like, what, not that he had an awful season, but he had a couple of meltdown games that cost them a chance to go to the playoff. Like it was just one. I mean, if they I think they lost to Florida, and the most egregious one was probably at Kentucky. Like what happened in the Kentucky game? Like, you know what I mean? Why did you struggle that poorly against Kentucky? So tough situations there for Jackson Dart. But I mean, like I said, I think he's probably in that same range. I can't say I move him into the first round on my own volition, but I do think it just takes, as we saw in the NBA, it just takes one bad GM to make a move. You know what I'm saying? And the Lakers end up with Luka. So it is what it is.
Yeah, just because I say I would have like a late second, early third round grade on doesn't mean he won't go in the first.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just where there's a lot of guys that have second or third round grades that go late first, early second, and it's based on team need and supply and demand. There could be teams that miss out on quarterbacks in free agency. They can't trade for a veteran and they have to go that route. And then if they can't get their hands on Sanders or Ward and they have an opportunity to trade into the late first, maybe it's a team that's high in the second round and go get Jackson Dart. Maybe they'll do that. My concerns with Jackson Dart are, the offense he played in was a very simple one read offense.
Yeah.
It's a college offense. He was late over the middle a lot on throws. His accuracy in the SEC. He was like a 55, 56% completion guy. Um, he had talent all around him, like you said, and that team should have been better than they were. Doesn't mean he won't be a good pro. I
Yeah.
don't think he's ready to play right away. And again, when we look at the history of the second round and what it produces in the NFL draft, the odds of you finding your franchise guy in the second round are slim to none. Um, doesn't say it's not possible, but to just if you have an opportunity, I would have Cam Ward ones, Shador Sanders two at this
Yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And then a big step when you start getting to 3 and 4.
Yeah.
If you can't get your hands on those, then you better have a veteran. Because if you go into the season with Jackson Dart and Aiden O'Connell, it's going to be a long season for the Raiders if they can't run the ball. And I heard you talk about the trenches. If they want to run the ball and Chip Kelly gets in there and wants to put in all these different run schemes, they need to upgrade the offensive line as far as run blocking.
Yes.
So what does that mean? That means if Jackson Powers Johnson is the center, you might need two guards. If Jackson Powers Johnson is the left guard, then you probably need a center and a right guard. They need two interior guys because you're probably still going to have Miller and Glaze as your bookend tackles
Mm-hmm.
and Jackson Powers Johnson somewhere. But if you want to run the ball consistently, Dylan Parham becomes a question mark. Andre James is a big question mark. And even Jordan Meredith, who had a good season, is not really a road grader in the running game. So the Raiders are going to have to upgrade the interior of the offensive line, and that's where Gray Zabel comes in, out of the Senior Bowl out of North Dakota State.
100%.
If they could somehow get him early second round, they could go into free agency. So now that we know who the coordinators are, now start looking around the NFL. Who are the free agents? Who knows who's played in what system? Who played in Seattle under Pete Carroll? Who did Chip Kelly coach at UCLA or Ohio State? And then you can start to kind of put together who might be an option for these teams, or who, even if you want to go John Spytek, who did he have in Tampa that could be a potential fit? So there's a lot of different avenues now here where the Raiders have all these new guys coming in that have access to all these different players. Plus, you still have the pro scouting department that the Raiders have. Like, who do they like? Who does the pro scouting director like? Who do the pro scouts like?
Yeah.
How do they rate these guys? So now the systems are in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can try to find out what players fit the best rather than just looking at a list and picking who we think are the best players. Now it's who's going to perform in the system and where do they want to put them in the system? What are they going to ask them to do?
Yeah, I like much more doing a mock draft with more information. So now I think Raider fans, you have more information about this whole thing. So it makes you can make more. We were it's all guesswork anyway, but it is better to have a little bit more information so your guesses can be a little bit more accurate as far as that goes. Go ahead.
I would add for the fans that want to go back to the Oregon days and talk about the spread offense and hurry up and high tempo, and that's going to be a part of what Chip Kelly does. And he won with Dennis Dixon, he won with Marcus Mariota, but if you look at this year's Ohio State team, they didn't play that style of offense.
Not at all.
It was still like a spread offense, but it wasn't hurry up. It wasn't, get a playoff every 10 or 11 seconds and just exhaust the defense into the ground. Like, they huddled. They ran some pro stuff on offense. They ran RPOs. They ran inside zone. They ran outside zone. They ran RPO stuff.
They're under center a little bit too, which I do like the fact that they were actually under
it
center.
Wasn't your typical, Chip Kelly type offense. Now, as long as when you start connecting the dots, one of them's not Dorian Thompson Robinson, then we'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
We don't need to go get him. DTR.
DTR.
I know you're a DTR guy, or you were, but
no,
gotta do better than DTR.
No, we can't do anything with DTR. We can't do anything. When you get the DTR in the pros is not it. It's not going to be it as well. They have a thing coming. Oh yeah, so Jackson Dart, as far as I came in college, I think the highest he was in 2022. These are just all the old Miss stats. 62%, 65% in 2023, and then 2024 was almost 70% completion percentage. So in
the SEC, I believe it was in the mid-50s.
In the 50s, yeah. When he was when
you take out the 4 cupcakes.
The 4 cupcakes. So yeah. So if you look at
and they throw a ton of screens too, a ton of quick wide receiver screens in that Kiffin offense. So when he had to throw the ball down the field, he wasn't very accurate in the SEC.
Yeah. So I would if you're going to watch tape on him, I would take out the the Furman game, take out the Middle Tennessee, take out the Wake Forest, take out the Georgia Southern, take out those ball games because I mean that would be. I would look at the statistical breakdown from those two because that does make a lot of sense because they some of the other games are not really relevant to who he actually is as a quarterback as well. So it makes sense.
And if they
It
take
makes
Jackson
sense.
Dart, I'll root for Jackson Dart. I don't know if he's the long-term answer. So,
Yeah,
and I don't know if Pete has 2 or 3 years to find out and then have to go get someone else. So they need to figure this out this year.
they do. I mean, and I do think that they do need. I still. I mean, listen. We all know we need a functional quarterback for 2025. But I still. I mean, I still think. I mean, for Spytech, he does have to have the eye on the prize down the road, and that could be the battle. Like hey, like Pete might say Pete, Patrick Graham or Chip Kelly might be like, hey, this player is staring at us right in the face. There could be a conflict where you're sitting there with, let's just say, for instance, if just Sanders dropped or Cam dropped, and they're sitting there right there, and but a guy who would really help the offense, like a Tech McMillan, and we already have Geno Smith. You just go ahead and just draft Tech McMillan and just pass on the quarterback, like whatever. I mean, who knows? Who knows what they will do in that situation? But I still think I still think the league is quarterback or die. I think that they need to kind of solidify that, do two things at once and get somebody for 2025, maybe even the beginning of 2026. As far as that goes, and then just say, hey, like we need to get we need to make sure we have our quarterback for the future on the team as well. I mean, they kind of they just we can't just not keep. We have to do it. Like I mean, it just makes all sense. We've kind of punted that position for a long time now.
If you're running the Chip Kelly offense and Cam Ward is staring you in the face, run the car to the podium. I'll just say that.
I would say, sprint it. You can grab Usain Bolt, um, and then and have him run it there because yeah, that would make all the sense in the world. So I mean, that could be. I mean, that would be. So how many picks do the Raiders have right now? 10.
I think they have a full allotment. They have 2/3. They're probably gonna have 2/6 because of a comp pick, and then they have another for a trade. So yeah, I think they have 10.
10. So like, use whatever you gotta do for this year and next year to get that done. I know some Raider fans have texted me and text the show about next year's draft class. I would say again. I will say look at Ryan said no. I will say this one more time. NIL has these kids not rushing to go to the NFL. Like in past years, I think Nussmeier would have jumped in. I think Aller would have jumped in. I think a lot of other pieces would have jumped in. Players would have jumped into the draft if they had more impetus to do that. But now it's like you don't have to rush. Like these donors and these collectives will take care of these players, and they'll get insurance plans, whatever, and they will end up staying in college for longer periods of time because they don't need to rush National Football League because their families and themselves are being compensated for.
Yeah, I look at next year's class, and I know a lot of people want to look at Arch Manning. Arch Manning
Not
has
coming
not
out.
started more than maybe one or two games in college. I don't know that I'm talking about, but he's not going to come out. He's not leaving the University of Texas, who has an unlimited budget to pay their football players for, essentially after 1 year of starting. He's going to stay and play 2 years. He's going to
Yes.
get his 20, 22, 24 starts under his belt and come out in 2027. Next year's class is just a bunch of guys that weren't going to go high in this year's draft that went back to school. When you start talking
Yes.
about Nussmeier and Aller, and those guys probably needed to go back to school because both of them probably weren't ready to play day one. So these guys are staying in longer. You can't look at quarterback draft class anymore, like you said, is this guy's a junior or third year guy, so he's coming out. Like they're not really doing that anymore.
Yeah.
These guys
They're
are
not.
staying till they're 22, 23, sometimes 24, sometimes if you're Dylan Gabriel, almost 25. So we'll see. Is Dylan Gabriel an option? We haven't talked about him.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it real quick before we head out. I just saw that. Just shout out to Kendrick Lamar. He won record of the year. I'm not surprised. Um, but what are your thoughts about Dylan Gabriel? I mean, the size is an issue. I mean, do you think he had? I think here's my question to you: when you watch him, Dylan Gabriel, and we'll break down quarterbacks on this show and on the Signal Caller. But do you think he has the arms? Let's go strictly arm strength. Does he have the arm strength to play in national football? Like, is he accurate enough? Can he make it when it's time to make that deep throw? Can he make it and catch people in stride?
All right, so we're talking about two different things here. So like,
Yeah.
is he accurate? Yes. Does he have the arm strength, the pure arm strength? Can he play in the National Football League? Yeah, Tua plays in the National Football League. So
Mhm.
technically, yeah, he could. Does he have the arm strength to be a top 10 in the league as far as ability to drive the football? No. And I know when we come out of the Senior Bowl and we saw the tweet, oh, he threw a football 74.9 miles an hour. And the combine register 62. This guy's Godzilla as far as arm strength. Like if you looked at every quarterback that threw at the Senior Bowl, he wasn't even the top two or three.
Yeah.
When you look at it, and the key when you really look at it, it's initial ball speed out of the hand. It's not like where it's at the top of its like kind of peak as you're throwing it, which is what they measured at the combine. So like Josh Allen probably could throw it if it's right out of the hand. We're probably talking upper 80s, not 74.9. So like
Yeah.
let's stop acting like Dylan Gabriel is going to walk into the NFL day one and have the strongest arm we've ever seen, like John
Yeah.
Elway or Jeff George, because he doesn't. Um, can he play in a timing based RPO quick throw game? Yeah, he could. The issue you're going to have is he's 5'10".
Yeah.
He's going to have to find throwing lanes. The Raiders are going to have a massive offensive line. You have big defensive linemen. Can, Russell Wilson's 5'10", 5'11", but he has a really high release. Dylan Gabriel doesn't have a high release. Drew Brees was 6'1.5", and he'd stand on his tippy toes to get the ball over. So like you're going to have batted balls. He's going to have where he's not going to be able to see the middle of the field at times because of just his height and just all the traffic and carnage of bodies in front of him. You're going to have to roll him out. You're going to have to move the pocket. You're going to have a really good system, really good weapons, and a really good run game. And can he be a guy that can complete a high percent of passes, move the ball? He's not going to be a guy that's going to throw it down the field a ton. You're not going to get big explosives in the passing game, but can he be a functional NFL quarterback? It's probably going to fall into that low end starter, quality backup type. If the Raiders want to take a shot at him, I probably wouldn't do it until the fifth round.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting to see what they will do in this draft because do you mortgage your future a little bit and get that quarterback? I would. I mean, if somebody's giving you a deal where you can get either Shador or Cam, especially in this offense, I would definitely get it. I would definitely get it done, and then I'll worry about the rest later on. Because I mean, that'll be the op. And then if you have like a Geno Smith, and they wouldn't have to play right away, that would make it even sweeter. For the
I
Raiders.
think
So,
I think
but
the issue you would have there is you have to move capital to get Geno Smith, and then you'd have to
you
move
double up,
capital
yeah.
to move up. I probably wouldn't do that. To me, Geno Smith loves Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll loves Geno Smith. I know he's in his mid 30s, but he's an accurate quarterback. He threw 30 touchdowns a couple of years ago. He can come in and compete. Is he a long-term answer? No, but like he can come in and he had a little bit more interceptions this year, but like if he just comes in, can take care of the football, keep the offense moving, can do just enough with his legs. If you could get him for a year or two, I wouldn't give him a big deal. It'd be like a 3-year deal with like a year or two of guaranteed money so you can get out of it
What?
quickly. But you could probably get him for like a third round pick. If it was the third round pick they got from the Jets,
Yeah.
if that was the deal, like a third round pick and maybe a conditional 4 in 2026, I'd probably make that deal.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not giving up a 1, I'm not giving up a 2, but if it's a 3 and maybe a pick in 2026, that's a 4 that could be a 3 if let's say the Raiders make the playoffs, like it's 2 3s if you make the playoffs. I might do that. And you have the cap room, you can pay him. Um, if you could get him somewhere in the mid 30s, like 35, 40 million a year, I know that sounds like a big number, but like
Mhm.
he's still a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. Now he's not a top 10 quarterback, but he's
Mhm.
not a bottom 10 quarterback. He's somewhere in that middle group. And then you
Yeah.
build someone behind him. So I would prefer to go that route than go pay Russell Wilson. I'd prefer to go that route. Unless Sam Darnold's coming pretty cheap, which I don't think he's gonna be.
No, he's not.
I would lean a little bit towards now if the cost is similar, if they both are gonna get $35 million a year, maybe you go the younger route with Darnold. But the connection that Pete Carroll has with Geno Smith is a pretty strong one. So we'll see what they want to do in Seattle. Seattle could decide they don't want to move him, and then you have to go to Sam Darnold some other route. So we'll see
Yeah,
what happens. But
it's funny because I'm trying to find like because I mean let's really talk about like if you're trying to get the Wilson I mean sorry trying to get Geno Smith on the Raiders, you kind of have to figure out okay what would Seattle do with their quarterback position, and then I don't think it's to play Sam Howell. I you know what I'm saying, so where do they get a quarterback? And I think that's probably what they want to do as well. I thought that the Ryan Grubb offense, it definitely led to 70% pass. He was a 70%
well,
completion
he's in
percentage
Alabama now.
guys.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone now. So I think Clint Kubiak is there now. So maybe that wasn't I mean, listen, maybe it wasn't a fit. I don't know. I mean, he did throw a lot more. He had 9 fumbles and 15 interceptions. That's not really acceptable as far as the turnover ratio part of it, but we'll see what the Raiders do. But I do listen, I will always give I'll give Pete credit because I know I was looking at him side eye when he moved. I mean, I get moving on from Russell, but like they moved on for him for Russell for Geno Smith, and people were like looking a little side eyed. And then next thing you know, the first that year in 2022, he had 30 touchdown passes, and then the third touchdown pass and only 11 interceptions, so he had a good year. So you got to give him that part. Interesting.
Where did Clint Kubiak coach in 2023? Where was he at before he went to New Orleans? He was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Who was on that team that's a free agent quarterback? Sam Darnold. Now, if you're Minnesota, if you're Seattle and you can move Geno Smith and you can get in your mind and upgrade a guy that already knows the offense, a younger player, maybe Sam Darnold to Seattle could be an option. I'm just trying to connect the dots here. Like
Yeah.
he knows
Yeah.
he knows the coordinator, he knows that system. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll definitely see. I know Mike McDaniel. Who's the head coach of the Seahawks? Mike
McDonald.
my
He came from
McDonald
Baltimore.
went to
Yeah.
Baltimore. I know that because he runs that defense that I want to run with the Raiders, but he's also a guy who wants to he's one of those dudes who it kind of gets me a little annoyed because it's he's they want to run the football more. It's like you have the headset, bro. Like I know you're not a play caller, but you still have the ability to tell that offensive coordinator, hey, listen, we got to run the ball a little bit more, a little bit more, and you have the whole week preparing for these games to say, I want to run the ball a bit more. So yeah, but Brian Grubb goes back and he'll and hopefully he'll help Kellen DeVore because Kellen DeVore definitely wants to keep that job in Bama. 3 losses and they want to fire you. So
Can't do it again next year.
you can't do that again. Can't have 3 losses again next year. You got to be in the playoff for sure. As far as that goes. All right. Raiders podcast. We're gonna be out. Unless Ryan has anything, any parting shots, any last things you want to talk about before we bounce? Anything breaking with the Raiders right now? You wanna break real
No,
quick?
I just got a text that I dropped a Woj bomb today from
I love
someone.
it.
So
I
my
missed
phone's still
the.
blowing up.
I wish the Woj. I missed the Woj bomb, especially with the Lucas stuff. I was like, I like Shams, but I missed the Woj bomb. I mean, I do miss it. I do miss it. Um, that's cool. So that's cool. That was cool. That was cool to have that. Because you text me, I was like, hey, if he's telling you to go for it, tweet that shit.
Gave me the green light. So I was like, all right,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's it.
I think the next two dominoes are who's the quarterback coach, who's the O-line coach,
Yeah.
and then we got the combine. We're in February, so we're in combine month.
Combine. We'll be here soon. The NFL absolutely never stops. So, and we'll be here. We'll be here to talk about it. All right. See you, Ryan. Take care.
All right, take care.